Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Another week in the books and another and still back-to-back weeks. Francis Ngannou and Ryan Bader share one thing in common, and that is that they both retained their belt and had their hands raised on Saturday night. What's up, folks? My name is Derick G. I am your host, and welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Bellator 273 is really what we're going to be talking about today for the post-show. A little bit of Eagle FC 44, you know, Khabib doing it big as a promoter. But listen, Darth Vader got the job done. Benson Henderson upsets like nobody thought that the man would. And you know what? UFC Hall of Famer RASHAD Evans, he notched his first win since 2013. Last one he got was against Uncle Chael's son, and UFC legend, undefeated. You know what time it is. Listen, man, we got a lot to talk about. Let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber. AJ, brother, what's happening, man? Strong 2-2 week for you this week, you know what I mean? 500 right there. So, you know, not winning, not losing, just kind of getting ahead. 0-4 for me, brother. This is the rare, the mythical 0-4 week for me. And it doesn't happen too often. I think last year, maybe one of us had one of those type of weeks, but I know one thing, it can only go up from here, brother. We had some very close fights, and we had a couple of situations where I'm like, listen, man, one little move away, that would have been a dub on my end. But listen, you got to risk it to get the biscuit. We risked it. We did not get it this time around, but that's okay. How are you living, brother?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. It's actually a very fun and entertaining night of fights over here, man, watching Bellator. It was a good switch up, you know. It was nice to see something different, make you appreciate kind of where you normally lie with the UFC and kind of the ease of access they have going on, brother. But life over here is doing well, man. How you living?
Nice. I'm doing all right. You know what I'm saying? Breaking down film. Well, actually, I got a little bit of a gripe, man. I got a little bit of a grievance that I want to air really quickly. So if you don't mind, folks. So you know, sometimes not everybody has the opportunity to watch these fights live. We all have lives. We got to pay the bills, all that good stuff. You know, so we're going out, we're doing our thing, we're working. So Bellator 273 comes on. I'm watching some prelims and all that. I got to go to work, right, for the main card. It's okay. It's a Saturday night, 5 o'clock. What are we doing? Get home from work, log into my Showtime, and I say, okay, time to watch Bellator 273 back and watch the full-on replay back. Ready to go, just like I do for many ESPN events for UFC. And lo and behold, I go on Showtime, I log on, and there is no Bellator 273 to be found. There's no replay. The only way you could watch it is on live TV, so you'd have to wait until 6 o'clock in the morning to watch the main card back, which is only 4 fights. And this is a testament to why I think that we do take the UFC for granted just a little bit in terms of their production, in terms of their overall scale, because they have all of the fights clipped up by fighter name by the time, like an hour after the fights end and all that good stuff, man. You can go and you can get highlights, results, photos, all the good stuff everywhere you look. However, for Bellator, they really showed off their regional ranking, I guess you could say, this week on the broadcast, brother. Do you feel what I'm saying on that one? Like, do you think that we take advantage of the UFC just a little bit, or take for granted just because Bellator is number 2, but they felt pretty regional this week in comparison to the UFC? What do you think?
Yeah, man, they felt pretty regional. Honestly, though, the show itself, watching it live, thankfully I didn't work this last Saturday, so I was able to watch it live, and not the worst, like a really good performance. There's a lot of people in the crowd, so I can kind of see, there's still definitely number 2 in the in the MMA kingdom, or whatever you want to call it. But man, doing some research or doing some, I was talking to Derick when the mics were cold, and doing some stuff that we normally do for this show makes it a lot tougher, man. You have to go through different ways, do different little tricks and stuff to kind of get the information you normally get super easy, whether it's through ESPN or even the UFC, whichever route you're taking. Usually it's very ease of access, and this one, the Bellator, man, I don't even think they updated their own website. I was looking at fighter rankings on their own website, and they had them all misplaced. I'm like, what's going on here, man? So it was a little difficult. So I understand where you're coming from, Derick.
Yeah, man. I even went onto the Bellator website just to get the win-loss results. Don't even got results up, brother. So, it is what it is, though. Hey, man, they put on some great fights, and I guess that's really all that matters. But in other news, man, the kickboxing / MMA veteran Sergey Corrales Kharitonov. He got a huge win over Tyrone Spong, and he went to go. It goes to show. He basically just proved that MMA is superior to most other combat sports, just because it encompasses just about everything. Tyrone Spong got taken down. Ultimately, he had some nice kicks and all that good stuff, but Kharitonov got the second round ground and pound victory. Listen, it's interesting because if I'm not mistaken, Kharitonov actually just signed a contract for Bellator, but because this is in Florida and whatnot, they let him fight in Eagle FC too, and now he's gonna go back to Bellator, and I think his last fight in Bellator was a loss, so this is good steam for him. But overall, brother, in terms of a main event, two old dudes throwing down, two old kickboxing legends throwing down, do you think that was a good headliner overall for the Eagle FC card?
Man, it was, yeah. I think it was a nice one. It was fun. People watched it. It was like not necessarily a throwback. I'm trying to find the word. Like, it wasn't nostalgic for most, especially more casual fans. But seeing two legends go in there and throw at it, I think it's a good headliner.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, seeing Rashad Evans escape heel hooks and, try to basically just put on a little bit of a clinic, man, against a jiu-jitsu practitioner in the MMA cage. He got the big win, like I said earlier, first win since 2013, so that's definitely huge on his end. But lastly, man, before we start moving into the photo collection and all that, I just wanted to say, man, Benson Henderson, smooth, brother. He gets the big split decision win against Islam Mamedov, robbery, I don't know. Close fight, probably. Listen, man, we definitely gonna have to talk about that in 1 second. But the thing that I wanted to report on real quick is that this was the last fight, supposedly, on Benson Henderson's Bellator contract. Eagle FC awaiting, brother. Give me a quick prediction.
Ooh, man. I'd almost rather see him at Eagle FC, but I know he wants that Bellator belt, so. Man, I think he'd get a little bit more love over at Eagle, but I mean he's still getting it done at Bellator. So that's a hard question right there. I'm gonna say no. I think he sticks it out at Bellator.
All right.
What about you?
I think that if he does not go to Eagle FC, Benson Henderson might call it quits, because he actually did say on the post-fight broadcast that if he didn't win this fight, that might have been his last fight. So I was like, ooh, that goes to show. I mean, he's older, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not the smooth of the past, But Father Time is undefeated. Jiu-jitsu was on point, though, man. Crispy. That's that black belt skill right there, man. And he showcased a little bit of that against Ben Saunders at the grappling event that I went to out here in Vegas. So to see that he really used that to his game against a wrestler, oh, you'd love to see it just as a jiu-jitsu fan right there, man. But all right, folks, overall, before we move into the photo collection, once again, AJ went 2-2. That moves him to 10-5. I went 0-4. Once again, very rough week. Sorry if you picked my bets on this one, folks. I'm 4-11 on the year, so it is a long year. We got a lot of time to make up, and you guarantee I will be making that thing up, man. In terms of upsets, so it was interesting, AJ, because we had no upsets on the prelims, right? Very chalky, as most Bellator cards are. However, we had 3 upsets on the main card and only one that was chalk. And guess what? The one underdog that I picked was not the one that won. So listen, it was a rough week once again. However, in terms of fight of the night, there is no such thing for Bellator, really. Performance of the night, not really a thing. So we might give out our own, but let's move on to a little bit of a photo collection. Why don't we? All right, AJ. So actually, let me move this. This is results here, but let me get to the photos real quick. Boom. All right, here we go. All right, brother. So we're starting off a little too forward here. Boom. Okay. Rashad Evans, right? He's escaping that heel hook against Gabriel Checo right here. And I just thought it was interesting because the last time that Rashad Evans won a fight was in 2013. Of course, he's had more fights since then, but I do think that we can agree here the heel hook and the leg lock has been something that has kind of evolved in MMA from jiu-jitsu. And not to say that it didn't happen in the past, but it's more of a prevalent thing. You're seeing it much more often. There's people who are literally labeled as leg lockers in terms of, their MMA game, their jiu-jitsu game, or whatever. So to see Rashad Evans defending a heel hook right here, is it not just a little surreal? It's like it's 2022. This is like the OG Rashad Evans. I remember when he knocked out Chuck Liddell, did the whole title run, when he got starched by Lyoto Machida, and he's over here defending heel hooks in 2022. I feel like this is in a weird way like deja vu in another sport or something, brother. I don't know. Give me your opinion on this.
Yeah, man, it's like seeing one of the legendary NFL players you love seeing playing for like the Canadian Football League or something. Where you're like, damn, he's still getting it. He's still out there just shaking people. I mean, honestly though, Rashad Evans looked good, man. He looked young. He looked like he was still getting it. You can even see right now he still has the 6-pack going. I enjoyed the fight, man. I know we get a lot of flack to the older fighters because we really hate seeing Like, imagine if he had got knocked out, we'd have hated. It would be a whole different conversation. But he looked good, man. He looked really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And all respect to Rashad Evans. I got to eat my words because I thought he was going to get stopped in this fight for sure. But, he proved Father Time wrong on that one, man. Come back with the victory. Sergey Karatonov, man, this is just putting the ground and pound on a Tyrone Spong, man. When you got a big boy like that, a big boy who almost missed a weight at 265 pounds, and he's on top of you, smashing your face in, that's not a place anybody wants to be right there. So just give me your opinion on the photo, brother.
Man, full mount, hands up. Yeah, that's a place you never want to be with a big boy who probably weighs more than 265 at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
If you had to cut down and almost miss that weight, yeah, man, he's like 280, 290. That's a lot. It's 300 pounds right on your chest. That's rough.
Especially when you're a kickboxer, right? When you're known as the guy who's a striker and you're in unfamiliar territory, really. I mean, Tyrone Spong is now 2-1 in his MMA career, and the last time he had an MMA fight was in 2014. So, very unfamiliar territory right there. And folks, of course, well, I got a couple more, but I just want to give a preface. This was slim pickings this week, just like I said earlier. Bellator, for whatever reason, they decided to photograph the main event and none of the other fights. So none of the prelim fighters get really any love this week. In terms of an old man getting knocked out or an older man getting knocked out, brother, picture perfect right here. What you're seeing right here, folks, is Chris Gonzalez delivering a picture perfect left high kick to the head of Saad Awad. And this was the matchup, AJ, where I was actually talking on the pre-show about age disparities and how maybe Saad Awad should not be stepping in there against such a young prime game opponent. And what happens? Saad Awad gets knocked out in 47 seconds with a head kick and some ground strikes. Give me your picture on the technique, on the form, on the kick. Give me your picture on the photo, brother.
Man, this was a beautiful one to watch. If you go back and watch this, folks, live, it was fast. It was fast. Put Saad Awad down. It comes out. Gonzalez, throws a fake jab. He feints the jab and then comes across with the left high kick. Ooh, it was beautiful. I mean, he might look a little funky with the hands up, right now while he's throwing that, but that's because he put all the effort into that kick, man. It was a beautiful feint to a left high kick. You got to watch this one back. The photo does it justice because it's showing shin to dome, and that's exactly what you want. He's not catching any foot at all on his head. Foot probably would have wrapped around and touched the other ear, man. But that is the perfect kick right there, man. That is a baseball bat to the side of your face.
Absolutely, brother. And when we're even looking at the form on that one, man, you got the arm extension, the swing with the arm right here. This should probably be tucked over at the chin, but it's okay because, once again, that is what you're saying. When you get in that full extension, when you're throwing your full power, it's definitely easy to get your arms, flayed out like that a little bit. But picture perfect knockout. And this is just another angle right here, man. This is just a screenshot I took in real time. And you can almost feel the collision happening. You can almost feel the impact of the baseball bat of that shin on the head, especially. And he's bald. Saad Awad's bald, so he got no cushioning, he got no nothing. It's just pure. I mean, that's what John McCarthy said. He said shin to dome. You know what I'm saying? Like straight up. You feel me? So listen, this was a beautiful, picture-perfect knockout win, and this is a big name to have under your belt for Chris Gonzalez. It's just one of those things where vice versa with the Rashad Evans situation. If this would happen to Rashad, what would the narrative be? What would we be talking about? This is kind of the same thing. Saad Awad, I mean, listen, man, this is a very, very good fighter, 24-14 now in his MMA career. However, this was Chris Gonzalez's third finish of his career, man. Moves to 6-1 in Bellator. Impressive so far. All right, AJ, this is in terms of the main event. These are just a couple stills from the main event that I thought were some good photos. The very beginning of the fight, man, BADER had Moldavsky on Queer Street. He had the man rocked, and this was one of the things where we'll talk about the main event and all that good stuff and, really break it down in here and when we do the main card breakdown. But for now, I thought, prototype versus the experienced OG. You got two of the same fighters, which basically that's what was proved to be seen on Saturday night. But the boxing of BADER was something that just gave him a little bit of an edge because Moldavsky, even though he had the big right hand, BADER was circling out doing the good thing. But BADER, he was able to land that right hand kind of at will. And listen, we went from that to that, which is basically Moldavsky getting it back together and saying, I am about to wrestle you. I'm about to use my sambo, use my judo, use my Greco-Roman, all that, even though this takedown isn't really a Greco-Roman takedown. He still got the takedown on BADER multiple times, dragged it out. This was a war, brother, 5-round war. But give me your take on those two photos first and foremost. The drop right there and then, bouncing back from adversity. What do you think?
Man, that right hand of Bader was a piston. I was watching when they were doing like the in locker room shots, and he was warming it up. You know, he's throwing 1-2, come back, and then with a big right hand. I was like, damn, Bader actually has some power. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with this first punch out the gate. Homeboy lands a piston of a right hand and puts Moldavsky up against the fence. I wish he had that picture too, because Moldavsky was probably out, man. The lights were flashing. Somebody might have been home, but they weren't answering that door. And then thankfully he came back too and absolutely put on those first, not necessarily the middle of round 1, 2, and 3, man. He was absolutely controlling. It just shows that Moldavsky's a pro. The fact that he was able to come back from getting shook twice, getting knocked twice, and then come back and actually get, a whole bunch of takedowns, a whole bunch of control. Mm-hmm. I still have the first round score debater, but even that, man, Moldavsky came back and showed that he has absolute heart and grit. It was impressive.
Absolutely. It was very, very impressive performance by both fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, this was an absolute war right here. This was actually it was an underrated fight. And to be honest, man, because I had it 2-2 going into the 5th, man. Well, like I said, we'll talk about it in a second. But the next photo, this is the definition, AJ, of thrill and agony right here. I don't know how you can describe thrill and agony any better than that. You have Bader, hands raised and still getting the belt wrapped around his waist. Valentin Moldavsky, head down. He's probably gassed out, head down, super tired, and then also knowing that you weren't able to avenge your head coach Fedor Emelianenko. Listen, man, it's a tough game that we play here, brother, and you could take a couple different lessons from this, right? You could take either I win, you know what I mean, or I learn. There is no losing that's happening here. You can take I just lost here. This is going to revamp and remotivate me and get me back up to the pinnacle because this is a championship fight. This was a unification bout. Or you can take the indifference approach and just keep it pushing. What do you think is the best approach that should be taken from Valentin Moldavsky? Just really quickly before we really break it down.
Man, I think it has to be the lesson route, man, especially a loss like this. This was a rough one because he had an argument that he could win this fight, and you can tell on the body language, on the posture, man, he's feeling it right now. So it's going to be a rough couple weeks kind of getting back to the mental game. But I think this is a lesson for him that he needs to know, man. You can't leave it to the judges. Mm-hmm. It's just especially in a fight like this, in a championship bout, you got to beat the champ and not just leave it to the judges, or else you don't know which way it's going to go.
Absolutely, man. You have to beat the champ if you want to be the champ, AJ. And in terms of that drop earlier, I think that the right phrasing we was looking for was the lights were on, but nobody was home. You know what I'm saying? The man was out there, brother. And then lastly, this is just the champ being the champ right here, man. Bader, he got the and still remains undefeated at heavyweight. This is his first real title defense because the first title defense came against Czech Congo, who he will be fighting here again in the very near future. This is going to be his next title defense. However, it ended up in a no contest due to an eye poke. Brian Bader eye poked, all that good stuff. So that is the photo collection, brother. So let me get us back up in here. And hey, man, like I said, it was a little bit of slim pickings this week, but I did think that they did a good job with the photos, man. They did, MMA Junkie. Shout out to that news outlet. They did a good job on the photos. Now, we can get into some other stuff. But before we do that, AJ, I did want to give the folks a good reminder. Drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Use code BWP10 for 10% off all merch at our online storefront. And if you haven't noticed, folks, I got one of our new designs in. This is the BWP chest logo, established 2020 right here. We got them in hoodie form. I got them in t-shirt form. I got both of them here on deck, ready to go, man. And I'll tell you, it feels good. Walking around, getting some compliments, people wondering what it is, saying, oh, where can I get one? Let me order that. Well, if you do order, like I said, folks, BWP10 for 10% off. Why not help yourself? We're giving you a free 10% off. Just take it, please. AJ, man, any thoughts on that?
Woo, I've got a lot of friends also ask, man, buy some stuff. Yeah, man, get yourself some merch. Treat yourself nice. Look fresh. If you haven't seen it, go check out Derick's Instagram. Homeboy's looking fly with the 2 sweaters, man. It looks good. Go check it out, folks. And like Derick said, throwing out 10%, help yourself out. Get yourself something nice, excuse me.
Exactly, man. Can't help you if you don't want to help yourself, so let us help you. You dig what time it is, man. But all right, AJ, man, so we have a little bit of a how would you say, we're going to take a scenic route to what we're doing here this week, man. We're going to hit the rankings review next. It's going to be a little unorthodox, but before we do that, AJ, I wanted to just talk a couple of these other, these other fights that we had basically going on, if you don't mind. So Let's do it, brother. Let's just look over the main card. So Sullivan Cauley, he gets a big, big win over Ben Parrish, man. He basically uses that wrestling, gets the man to the ground and pounds him out. This was a very, very big win over Ben Parrish. Good way to start off the night with a nice finish. You know, he's 3-0 in the Bellator MMA and 100% TKO rate, man. So that's definitely something that we are looking for right there. Let me just do this real fast, brother. Okay, so next one that we got, this was my sleeper, brother. Lucas Brennan versus Ben Lugo, or Ben Lujo. Once again, I do apologize, man. Listen, this dude is slick, bro. He was probably the biggest favorite on the card, I'm pretty sure. But this kid is slick. Lucas Brennan got in there, used a little bit of his wrestling, and got a very interesting, what they note here on Sherdog as an arm triangle choke, but he talked about it and saying that it's called an assassin choke. That's what he called it. It was a very interesting, unorthodox arm triangle choke, if that's what you want to call it, that he did pull off, man. It's just going to show the level of jiu-jitsu this dude is at, man. It's like he's just grabbing you and he's strangling you, and it's making it look easy, man. Ben Lugo is a much more experienced fighter than Lucas Brennan, and he didn't really stand a chance in this bout. What did you think of that one?
Man, it was impressive because even Big John was impressed. He in the broadcast, he said, he's like, most people can't get the finish from there. Like, that's a very hard angle to actually get that choke in. Very impressive from man, like the
Lucas
right
Brennan. Lucas Brennan.
Brandon, thank you,
Yes,
Brandon. Skywalker Brandon. And Skywalker had a great fight out there too, man. You go check it out. He looked crisp. He looked flash. He looked like he knew exactly what was going on. The second that choke was there, we said in the pre-show, this dude, the second he hunts those submissions as much as he can. The second it presented itself, he got that assassin choke. Very impressive. And even when you get Big John out there saying like, damn, most people can't do that. That's a good fighter right there, man. What you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely, bro. Like I said, this is a young stud right here. He was my sleeper for a reason. I'm glad that he delivered. Absolutely, man. Next up, AJ, we have Nikita Mikhailov, man. And this was, talk about a wrestling fest right here, man. This dude just showcases wrestling to the absolute, man. Big win over Blaine Chudd, who was a very, very crafty jiu-jitsu dude. And listen, Nikita Mikhailov just showed sometimes wrestling can absolutely mitigate your jiu-jitsu, especially when you got a nice right hand and a left cross to go with it, man. He dropped him a couple times. He dropped him like the first shot of the fight, and then in the third round when it was Blaine Chudd, he was like, what's up, bro, what's up, stand, bang. And he was like, okay. So what happens? Mikhailov, he switches to southpaw and cracks him with the left cross, man. I was like, well, sometimes you get what you ask for, brother. I will just say that, man. It's a fun fight, you know what I mean, but kind of a grind fest. Any thoughts on that?
It was a fun fight, man. I am surprised it lasted as long as it did. Shout out to Shut because he got rocked with that first one, man. I thought it was going to be over very fast, and the ref let it keep going. It was actually a pretty entertaining fight, even though it was a grappling fest for sure. Yeah. But he got rocked a couple times. And like you said, man, sometimes you get what you ask for, and it's not exactly what you want. He ate a couple fists right to the mouth. Yeah,
absolutely, brother. And then, listen, I don't really have much to say on that, but Nikita Mikhailov is a problem. That dude is good. He's a very, very good fighter. And let me see what stats that I got on him. He moves to 2-0 in Bellator, and he's now on a 5-fight win streak. So watch out for Nikita Mikhailov, man. All right, brother, next up, this was who would have known that Dwayne Johnson was basically Sean Strickland 2.0. This dude was talking up a storm in the cage, brother. It was fun. It was definitely fun because Dwayne Johnson, he was checking a couple of Rosta's kicks early on, talking about, don't hurt yourself, boy. Don't hurt yourself, boy. And I was like, oh, okay. And even Big Johnny's like, I don't even want to say nothing. I just want to listen to the next thing that he has to say. So it's always fun when you have a game opponent, but it did kind of seem like it was a little bit of bad blood even when the fight ended, man. You know, it felt like Dwayne Johnson was still talking a little bit. Rosta, he used a lot of wrestling, a lot of control to win the fight. Maybe Dwayne Johnson wanted just a stand-up war and wanted to bang and trade. I don't know, brother. What did you make of the fight? It was a clinic by Rosta, but Dwayne Johnson's game.
It was a clinic by Rosta, but Dwayne Johnson is very game. He walked in the cage saying, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to beat your ass. The whole time, I was excited, man. This was my sleeper. I didn't expect anything like any of that heat to come from Johnson, man. But I was excited. And then he comes out, looking pretty good. Like you said, checking those leg kicks, had Big John excited. The whole fight was basically a clinic for Rosta. But, man, it proved that Johnson is there to fight, there to scrappy. A couple times he went back to the middle, still talking that shit, which you love to see. But, I mean, if you're going to be talking that much trash, you got to be able to defend the game and put yourself on. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, my question to you is, do you think that tactic was necessary being that he was such a big underdog? I mean, when I'm looking at it right here, Dwayne Johnson was a plus 525 underdog. So maybe he was – the way I looked at it was a little psychological warfare right there, where he was like trying to get Rosta off his game. You agree on that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think it was necessary to kind of make the big guy. Man, if you ever watch the Bellator fights, do not look at the chat that's on YouTube for the prelims. These dudes don't know what the fuck they're talking about, man. They were going wild, but I think like when he started talking shit, more people started liking him, more people started going against Rosta. So I think it was a good tactic, and I definitely think it was necessary to get a little bit under the skin, because there was some bad blood for sure. Even at the end, they both postured up like, "What's up, dog? Done? What's up?" Yeah, it was
absolutely.
Cool.
That's funny, man. Just because I do agree with you, it's an odd thing, and it kind of sucks that it has to be that way. But oftentimes, man, unless you're causing controversy, you're being a dick, you're being an asshole, people don't care. You be the nicest guy in the world, and you have to be a really, really, really good fighter if you want people to still care. Because, you know what I mean? You got to be able to... It's an entertainment game. We know what time it is, brother. All right, let me see what else we got here. Let's move on to, we already talked Chris Gonzalez with the beautiful head kick KO over on Saad. Enrique Barzola over Darion Caldwell, bro. That was such an impressive performance. And I'll tell you what, I was very surprised that Darion Caldwell decided, I'm the longer guy. I have probably the better striking. Let's wrestle the entire fight. Gas ourselves out in 2 rounds and then get beat up in the 3rd round. Literally, this is how Barzola wins like every gritty fight. Literally, you know what I mean? Is that he's down in the beginning. They were even talking about the Ronnie Yaya fight. Ronnie Yaya was all over him early, right? But Barzola, he's able to tough it out, stick it out through 3 rounds, and eventually come back to win the fight. Now, Darion Caldwell, this is a former champion, brother, and to see him just kind of wilt a little bit like that in terms of just the gas tank, man, I thought the approach was great. He was winning the wrestling exchanges early, but he just gassed himself out, got too tired, and Barzola was able to capitalize, ground and pound, finish, game over. Question to you, AJ. What did you think of the approach? And second, do you think Caldwell was really finished, or it was just the fatigue of I can't move anymore? I can't. It's not that I'm not defending myself, even though I'm not, but I just can't move. It's not that I'm hurt. I'm just so tired. Keep hitting me. It's easier than moving. What do you think?
What's the old saying, Derick? Fatigue make a coward of us all, brother. And that's exactly what it was, man. Caldwell, he just a little too much, man. And Barzola, all credit to Barzola, because homeboy is an absolute dog in there. And the fact that he's able just to kind of weather the storm, keep it going, because Caldwell was looking better in the first, and definitely in the early rounds, the first and the second. But once you start wilting, man, and there's nothing that can save you in there, sometimes it's easier just to curl up and take those shots and let the ref do its job. But yeah, man, it was a fun fight, and it was crazy to watch because I thought it was gonna be Caldwell all day long, but then Barzola starts to come back, and woo, man, that cardio. There's a reason you put those hours in the gym. You wake up early, you get that run on, man.
Absolutely, and folks, I mean, this was one of those situations where, I mean, like I said, it was just picture perfect win for Enrique Barzola on this one. There's really not much else that you can say. Darion Caldwell had he was he was actually an underdog. He was a plus 110 underdog on this one, man. But being the former champion, I think everybody thought that this was live dog spot right here. But Enrique Barzola, man, listen. You got to be a gritty fighter if you want to get the dubs, and Barzola is the definition of gritty right there. That is the prelims right there, man. It was a pretty fun prelims. If we're talking about finishes, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 fights ended up in a finish. So the prelims were really the show that you wanted to watch, brother. But, you know, either way, man, it kind of reminded me Caldwell when he was so tired of Moldavsky in the 5th round, where you could tell, brother, he's just gas trying to push through. And folks, one last tidbit on this, I can say from experience, it's not the same thing because this is in jiu-jitsu, but there are times where it's the end of your training, right? You've already just hit 6, 7, 8 6-minute rounds of live rounds in a row, man. You got a big sweaty dude on top of you, and you're trying to get out of a position, you're trying to get out of mount and trying to escape, and your coach is screaming at you, just go over here, move your leg, pass the half, you know, whatever the case may be, right? And there is sometimes a mental disconnect of your mind is, you know what you need to do mentally, but you can't get your body to do it. And it's a very, very tough feeling. So I can only imagine in MMA when the stakes are at its highest, when you're fighting in front of a crowd, when the adrenaline is surging through you, and you're literally like, I know fundamentally, technically, I need to move my leg here, plant, post, stand, but you can't do it because you're so physically exhausted. Can you relate to that at all, brother?
Oh, yeah, man. There's nothing worse than when you're literally on the bottom, drowning in the water, and you think, all right, I got to, I'm going to hit buck, I'm going to turn, I'm going to shrimp out. All right, go. And you just, there's nothing, and then you're just getting hit on. Yeah, it's a rough one. And folks, if you've never felt that, go down to your local gym and just ask. Be like, yo, let me just try something out. Par me up with somebody. Yeah. It's a crazy feeling to get when you literally it's undescribable because you can't do anything about it, and it's rough and it's mentally challenging, but it's a good thing to go get out there and try.
Absolutely. And if you're like one of those dudes who's like, bro, like you don't understand my mentality. Like when I get mad, I see red and I just destroy everybody. Like, right. If you're one of those dudes, right. Which, listen, no disrespect. If you're one of those guys and you think that you feel that way about yourself and you think you could smash these people and you've never experienced this, well, you're in for a rude awakening, brother. I will just say that, man. So listen, brother, mentality is different. I feel you. I don't want no problems. I'll just say that over here, brother. All right, man. Let's head over to a little bit of the rankings review, my brother. So listen, it's going to be a little different today, man. I want to take an unorthodox approach to this and talk about the heavyweight division. So, brother, if you do not mind, I'm just going to pull up these heavyweight rankings really quickly while we're doing this. And what I wanted to talk about today, like I said, unorthodox. I wanted to talk about Ryan Bader. And obviously, he's the champion. What are we talking about rankings? We know who he's going to fight next. But this is a former UFC fighter. This is a Bellator champion, light heavyweight and heavyweight champion at one point. Retained his heavyweight belt, so he is still a champion. Sometimes when you go on that skid of losing your belt, losing a couple fights, things can get really ugly really fast. But my question to you, AJ, is where does Ryan Bader, Darth Bader right now, where does he stand in the grand scheme of a mixed UFC / Bellator heavyweight pool? Like if we did just top 5, top 10 of all heavyweight fighters between Bellator and UFC, where would Ryan Bader stand? He is a champion in this division, but my question to you is he top 5 UFC right now? Is he top 3 UFC? And the reason why I ask that is because when we're looking at the heavyweight rankings, brother, obviously Francis Ngannou is the champ. You got Cyril Gane, former interim champ, now number 1 contender, even though in my book, Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight GOAT, is still the number 1 contender. The man gets no love, disrespect every week. We have to just mention it time and time again. Derek Lewis at 3, Curtis Blades at 4, Alexander Volkov at 5. So I want to do process of elimination right here, brother. If we're talking Alexander Volkov versus Ryan Bader, who are you giving the nod to right now?
Oof, man, Volkov. I think that's at that level. I think he'll get absolutely smashed on by anybody that's 4 and above. But that's really where it starts for me, man. Volkov, I can see that being a little bit closer of a fight. Maybe Bader wrestles him out. Maybe Bader gets in the clinch. But I definitely think Volkov gets the finish for sure, man. All right, he uses that length to his advantage, start getting some kicks. I just think it's too highly touted, personally.
I understood. So what I want to take a look at really quickly is because obviously, I mean, this is a former UFC fighter. And if we look at his UFC resume, right, this he did the Ultimate Fighter, right? We got a win over Madero, Chana Jardine, Antonio Nogueira. That's a big win. Rampage Jackson. Dropped one to Glover, dropped one to Machida, dropped one to John Jones and Tito Ortiz. So he's fought the killers over there, man. And to have a win over Rampage Jackson, that is no small feat whatsoever. But the last of the UFC days, wins over OSP, wins over Phil Davis, Rashad Evans, lost to Rumble Johnson right here, Ilir Latifi, Antonio Nogueira again. And then, I mean, come on, brother. So it's like, I hear what you're saying. On one hand, I hear what you're saying. On the other hand, I do say this is a credentialed, I mean, come on, mixed martial artist who has fought the best of the best in terms of mixed martial arts, period. Now, of course, when I'm looking at these fights and I'm looking at, all of those wins and losses, that all took place in the light heavyweight division. We're talking about a step up. We're talking about the heavyweight division. And I thought it was interesting because one thing I wanted to know was you saw the way that in his fights against Corey Anderson, where he got starched in the first round, in his fights against Lyoto Machida, where it was kind of touch and go, against Nemkov, right? The chin, he was a little chinny at 205. You move up weight a little bit, you know what I mean? Get a little bit of extra water in your belly, a little hydration, and what do you know? You can take big shots from Moldavsky and not be phased, even though weren't the biggest shots of all time. But so at heavyweight, are we still feeling this way, brother? I'm going to pull the rankings back up and get back to it. Do you think top 4, you think Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, Stipe, Cyril Gane, and Ngannou all smash Bader, or does Bader have a fighting chance here?
Nah, man. I think Curtis Blades out wrestles Bader. I understand what you're saying, Derek. I get you, man. I feel you. I just think Ryan Bader, he might be top tier Bellator scrapper, but I feel like he's middle of the pack in the UFC still. Okay. I was saying even on the pre-show, most people don't give Bader the love he deserves. True. And I agree. Most people don't. I feel like Bader's a great fighter. Mm-hmm. I just think he gets out wrestled by Curtis Blades. gets absolutely bombed on by Derek Lewis. Stipe, not even a chance. Stipe just out wrestles him all day long. Stipe is the Ryan Bader of the UFC, man. I feel like he doesn't get enough love right there either. Cyril Gane outpoints him, and then Derek Lewis, he might be able to out wrestle Derek Lewis, but once he gets touched once, it's over, man. Ain't nobody getting it on the Predator right there.
Okay, let's take a step back then. Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Do you think he could pass that test?
That's where I'm getting a little closer. Yeah, I think Ryan Bader has a way better shot against someone like a Jairzinho Rozenstruik, a striker who's going to kind of stay light, kind of bounce around a little bit. Bader can out wrestle him. Even probably has a little bit of strength advantage. We saw in this fight, man, Bader had a 6-pack rocking. He's training. He's looking good out there. For even 265 6-pack. That's crazy. Absolutely. He goes up against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who isn't able to utilize that speed and probably has a little bit less power going for him. I think Bader might be able to get that one.
Okay.
What about you?
I mean, I think he out-wrestles Rozenstruik all day long. I think if you can just avoid the big shot, I think he could definitely win that fight. What about your boy, Chris Daukaus?
Oh, man. Chris is... I think Bader might get that one just off of experience. I think they're too closely in style-wise to go at it, and I don't think Daukaus right now has the power to finish Bader, especially because Bader he may not have eaten the hardest of shots of Moldavsky, but he does have a little bit better of a chin at the heavyweight class. So that one I'm still giving to Bader, even though it hurts to say to my boy Daukaus, but I've given that one to Bader, man. What about you?
You know what, man? I think I just give a little more respect to Ryan Bader, because I think he passes the Chris Daukaus test very easily. The wrestling, once again, I think it's going to be a little bit too much if he can avoid the big shot. He can give the big shot, too. We saw, like I said, that right hand just rocked Moldavsky within one. If he lands the big shot, that's one of the things I was talking about. I was like, he fell in love with the hands. I hope that's not too much of an issue here, and it wasn't. But that right hand and that left cross, brother, I mean, for most heavyweights, that's their, if you're an orthodox fighter, those are your weapons. But it was just impressive. And real quick, I just wanted to point out, because you were talking about the 6-pack on a Ryan Bader. For the weigh-ins, it looks like Bader weighed in at 232. So these were tiny heavyweights, 232 and 234 for Moldavsky. And that's something that I was actually even thinking about, because that does go to prove your point when we're talking about can he stand against Ngannou, Gane, Derek Lewis. It's like, I mean, listen, brother, you want a man to have 30, 40 pounds on you, 50 pounds by the time you in the cage? Probably not. But it is interesting because when I was watching the fight, that's what I was thinking. I was like, these guys are kind of small for heavyweight, man. Like, these are some tiny boys in comparison to the Ngannou-Gane fight that we just saw. But either way, man, I think I can understand the sentiment of where you are at right now in your thinking. And it goes to show that there is a little bit of a discrepancy between the UFC caliber fighters, the Bellator caliber fighters. There's a reason why Ryan Bader was not able to become the champion that he is today, the double champ in the UFC, but he was able to do it in Bellator. Either way, I thought that this was an interesting take on the rankings review and thought we should just give it a little bit of a look. You know what I'm saying? So now, brother, you know what segment it is. You know what time it is.
Right now, there is not a man in this planet.
Fighter of the night, brother.
The celebration was more work than the fight. Fighter of the night.
Okay, brother, this is the fighter of the night, and we could have gone a couple of different ways here, and if you don't mind, I'd like to start first, because I was so impressed by my fighter of the night. So, folks, my fighter of the night for Bellator 273 is Sabah the Sleek Sheik Homasi, and the reason why is because this is a man who is known for brutalizing people, knocking their blocks off, knocking their heads off of their shoulders. This is what the man is known for. Went on a recent 2-fight skid, not too much of a problem, because this is an individual who always bounces back from adversity. He is 16-10 in his MMA career currently, 5-4 in Bellator, and he needed this because he was 4-4 in Bellator. He was on that cusp of going under 500. You never necessarily want to be there. Either way, man, the interesting thing is that he fought a long dude against Jaleel Willis, right? A dude who I thought had just more weapons. That's what I said in the preview show. He got more weapons. He has more variety of attacks. Sabah Homasi likes to get in there with his boxing. However, this is a dude who's trained by American Top Team, and the one thing that we can't forget is that they have ways to break down their opponents, and that's exactly what he did. He opened the fight with some strong calf kicks. As soon as Jaleel Willis switched stance, able to get the shot, able to go in there, arm triangle in the first round, first submission win the man has notched in 2014, his third overall submission win, and I believe his other 2 submissions were guillotine. So those are chokes, but that's not the same level of of jiu-jitsu as an arm triangle choke, which is even still very much a wrestling, tactic more than it is a true, somebody pulling guard and trying to do something fancy on you. The point that I'm trying to make here, man, is that being that the Sleek Sheik can bounce back from adversity time and time again, the fact that he blonded out his hair, this is like the mythical fighter Blonde Homasi. We have Blonde Brunson in the UFC, now we got Blonde Homasi. He came in there, he smashed, he submitted the man that a lot of people didn't think that he would, if we're being honest with you. Sabah Homasi was a plus 220 underdog with a minus 275 comeback for Jaleel Willis. Overall, on paper, Jaleel Willis was going to win this fight, but that's what happened. That's what a true champion does, a true competitor does. They say, I don't care what anybody says, I don't care what the paper says, I don't care what any of your math or your logic says, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to defy it. I'm going to defy the logic and I'm going to get the dub, and that's what Sabah Homasi did. So Sabah Homasi, the Sleek Sheik, former UFC vet, a dude who's in there taking names, kicking ass in Bellator, man. You are my fighter of the night for Bellator 273. Very impressive showing, man. And who would have thought? If you would have told me the Sleek Sheik, Sabah Homasi by submission, I would have told you you're crazy. And I can almost guarantee the odds on that were probably astronomical. So you are my fighter of the night, brother. But AJ, man, who do you have for your fighter of the night tonight?
Ooh, well, first off, Derick, I almost went with Sabah Homasi just because it was a great fight, man. Homeboy came to party. He was rocking the blonde. He looked like a little bit of mullet going on. He was wearing the Pit Vipers. He looking like a real Chad. It was fun to see. And he came out there fighting like he had a chip on his shoulder,
Absolutely.
bro. He walked up. Even when he circled the octagon for the first one, he was puffing his chest out. It was a great fight. Almost went with Sabah Homasi, so I can see why you went with that choice, man. But my fighter of the night, personally, I'm going a little maybe controversial.
Okay.
Maybe, depends on how you see it. But I saw a great fighter out there with a great performance. I'm with smooth Benson Henderson, man. He had a little bit of gray in his hair, looking like the old Benson Henderson. Or not the old Benson Henderson, an older Benson Henderson, but still performed like the young Wildcat, man, showing why it is so important to be that cerebral fighter, to know what's going on, to be thinking things through, to know your jiu-jitsu against a wrestling guy. We've seen how wrestling has really taken over the scene, especially with the sambo and the Russian style smash. But when you get somebody in there who knows the counters, who knows the advantages, who knows how to roll and shoot for the takedowns or the leg locks or the Granby rolls, all these things, so many different tactics in his book. He proved why it's important to be that cerebral fighter, that veteran of the game, the dude who knows it all. And the best part about it, man, he needed this win. He needed that win. There was a couple times in there where he was wide-eyed, like, what is going on? This isn't going to be how this fight goes down. He was able to create his own reality and switch things up, make it his fight, man. And that's what I loved most about Benson Henderson's fight, this one, man. Very impressive performance from him. Came out, and what I like too is at the end of the post-fight octagon speech interview with Big John, he knew exactly what was going on. He was like, I was doing this should have been like this way, You could tell that he is very experienced, very cerebral, and man, that's why I made him my fight of the night. He was thinking things through, he was rolling with it, seeing the moves that his opponent was doing and countering them even better. That's exactly what you want in that kind of chess match fight that we like to see, man. Very impressive fight and a much needed win for the smooth Benson Henderson. That's why you are my fighter of the night. Very impressive for an old dog like that, man.
I mean, controversial, I do think so, you know what I mean? Because we'll talk about it here in a second, brother. But I will say, you're right. He was very cerebral in there. He was very aware of what was going on. And what was interesting is that at the end, he was saying that, he was like, bro, those Russian boys are strong. He was like, when Mamedov had me in that body lock, he was a lot stronger than I thought. The big thing that I wanted to take away, though, is at the very end, he saw Khabib, and he was like, oh, you're the man I wanted to talk to, which is why I was like, Eagle FC approached him, brother. Why you want to talk to Khabib so bad? I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. That was a great fighter of the night to have, though, man. It's always, like I said, it was just a beautiful thing seeing him co-main event, still doing it big, man. You got to have love for Benson Smooth Henderson. And the interesting stat that I have on this one for him is first win since 2019. He moves to 6-2 when the fight results in a split decision. So he's been on the very favorable end of split decisions throughout his career. Think about the difference, man. Right now, he is 28-11 in his career. So if 6 of those wins, right? So let's say it was reversed. It was 2-6, man. I mean, you would have what? It would be Benson Henderson would be 22 and, something, I don't know. It'd be different. That's the point that I'm making. My math sucks, folks. Don't put me on the spot like that. All right,
this isn't a math podcast, man.
Exactly. Yeah. This ain't no Lex Friedman podcast, man. All right, brother. So once again, let's get into the main card. Let's get into the main card because that was the fighter breakdown, all that good stuff. Fighter of the night. Drop a like, folks. Subscribe. 330 subscribers on YouTube. You guys are awesome. You guys are the best. We say it week in and week out. Share the show with your friends. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Facebook. Wherever you need to share it. But if you don't mind, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. It really helps out. That's really all we have to say on that one, man. Look into, you know what I mean, advanced up, talk to some companies, get some sponsors, something like that. But in the meantime, get some merch, you know what I mean? Help support BWP, Bloody Water Podcast. It actually got a new design up there, man. And real fast, AJ, if you don't mind, let's take a very, very quick look at the Bloody Water Podcast storefront, man. Why don't we? You know what I'm saying? Just see what kind of new designs that we got up there, folks. Once again, BWP10 for 10% off at checkout. But this is the newest design that I got up here, man. So you'll see Bloody Water Podcast, nice, smooth, man. I mean, what else can you ask for? Let me see if I could. Yeah, look at that, beautiful, right? Come on,
clean, brother.
Yeah, got the vintage look. You know what I'm saying? If we want to take it into a different direction, brother, I also got a for the people. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of wearing white myself, but some people just like to live dangerously and live on the edge. And if you want to do that, we got the Bloody Water Podcast, got the blue, got the white. When we look at the back, do we got anything on the back? Yes, we do. Look at that. Bloody Water Podcast, the blue gradient. Looking beautiful, in my opinion. Lastly, it's basically same design, but this is going to be for the crew neck. So these are the new designs that we currently have up here at the online storefront, man. You know, listen, this is the place to go, folks. Get your gear, get your merch, all the good stuff, folks. All right, let's move on to some main cards.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown,
Courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Okay, brother. So once again, we just talked about the Sabah Homasi fight, man. But listen, brother, came out hot. And this is really the best way you can come out against a Jaleel Willis, a long-rangey striker. You come out, you start spamming some leg kicks, blasting those things in there, get them thinking about, okay, I don't know what I'm trying to do here, man. You know what I mean? It's like I want to commit. I don't know what they saw on that. Maybe they saw on tape Jaleel Willis is a little heavy on his front foot. Maybe they saw just some technical things that they can exploit. But being an American top team protege like Sabah Homasi is, he didn't really allow this to become a fight. And I think sometimes that's the best approach that you can take. Would you agree with me on there?
Oh, yeah, man. This was quick and explosive, and I think it was more of a like a shocking, jarring instance for Jaleel Willis. Coming out like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Bam, one to like, what? Like, oh, I didn't expect that. And then he starts thinking, and then he starts going. That's a little bit more of the mental game that I think favored Sabah Homasi in this one, man. They definitely planned for it. It was a quick one. This was impressive, brother. What you think?
Yeah, man. I think that Sabah Homasi put on a hell of a performance. Like, it's hard to take it away, but it was so short that it's really tough to really talk about it because we didn't get to see Jaleel Willis open up his offensive game whatsoever. But it does go to show sometimes where you'll talk about a fighter who sometimes isn't completely on, who isn't completely fired up for a fight. And I'm not saying like unmotivated. What I'm saying is you'll talk about some people who are like, I had all of these nerves. It allowed me to come out hot, come out super sharp. And then you have other people saying, I wasn't really that nervous. I started a little slow. You know what I mean? I had to finally like get into like rhythm to realize, okay, here, I'm in a fist fight. Let's go. And for this one, the hot fighter sometimes could take advantage and just win the fight. So Sabah Homasi did that. Huge win. Like I said, he moved to 5-4 in Bellator. First submission win since 2014, brother. But I mean, really, at this point, man, I would have liked to see more. Let's play a little hypothetical here. Had this fight gone 3 rounds and Sabah Homasi wasn't able to get the fight to the ground as quickly as he did, which is tough to take it away because that's exactly what he did. But had this been a striking contest, do you think Homasi would have been the winner at the end of the day if this was a striking contest back and forth?
Whew, it's hard to say. It would have definitely been a lot closer of a fight, man. Willis starts getting those long. They had a thing going with a long, lanky reach for the promotion or for the broadcasters. Mm-hmm. But if it would have, man, Willis is a striker, man. He can get things going. It would have been a lot closer of a fight, and I think the path that Homasi took, making it not necessarily a chess match, but a dog fight right in the beginning, take him down, surprising things is the best way to go. But if things would have went a little bit longer, it definitely favored Willis going in the future, man. I picked Willis in this one, didn't see this one going how it went, but if it would have lasted a little bit longer, I think Willis would have had at least a better shot to implement that game strategy or that plan that he really wanted to. All credit to Homasi, though. Very impressive how quick he got it done.
All credit to Sabah Homasi, man. Beautiful, beautiful win right there. All right, folks. Next up, we got a fight between Enrique Corrales and Aiden Lee. And I'll tell you what, folks. Sometimes the bigger, longer, lankier fighter who has more tools under his tool belt doesn't get the win. And that's what we saw this week, man. Henry Corrales used his veteran experience, man. Listen, I'll tell you the name of the game right here, AJ, brother. Corrales, he was faster. He had more power under his shots. He was more of a dog. He was able to walk forward more. He was able to do everything better than Aiden Lee in this one. And I think that Corrales dropping Lee in the opening seconds of this bout really made Aiden Lee say, okay, let's reevaluate this game. You know what I mean? This is a dangerous game I'm playing. I got to be very tactical. I have to be very tentative on my entries. I want to use my long, straight shots, get that body kick working. That body kick was a thing of beauty. However, he was never really able to get the fight to the ground and utilize his jiu-jitsu, which was the reason why I picked him, because I thought he was a little more fundamental there. Henry Corrales did a great job. However, AJ, we got to talk about it. The fight ends so weirdly, right? Corrales pokes Aiden Lee in the eye. 2 rounds have already passed. The right man won. Corrales absolutely was going to win that fight. I had him up 2-0 going into the third and winning it's hard to say winning because Aiden Lee just did come out hot in the beginning of the third. But the point is, does it feel right to see Henry Corrales, hands raised, all happy after poking a dude in the eye and he can't continue? And it's just weird, right? What do you think of that? What do you make of it?
It was definitely weird. Aiden Lee was in there saying that he got poked 3 different times in the eye. I only saw the one. I didn't really catch the other one. I didn't know what he was talking about. Walking away, shaking his head like he thought he won that fight. I had the right guy winning. Maybe not. Maybe he shouldn't have been as excited, but he looked a little. It's unclimactic or anticlimactic, or just not as fulfilling as a win we expected to be. Henry Cross was whooping that ass, but Aiden Lee came out in that third and was really starting to get things going. I think he was just a little surprised. I mean, at the end of the day, I agree. The right guy won. It's just a little unfulfilling in the fact of how it went. Definitely a sad or a regretful instance for Lee. Maybe not regretful. It's not a good word to use. But either way, I think it's like it's a hard one, man. It's a hard win, hard loss. You didn't really get any closure on this one. I think Aiden Lee was very surprised by getting dropped in that first round, and that's why he really started to utilize that lateral movement, bouncing around a lot, basically staying on the outside the whole time, where Corrales was just trying to cut off the cage. Definitely think that's why the judges gave it to him, and some of them even gave him the third round. So I agree, Derick. He might have been winning that first or that third one. I had Lee kind of coming out like a sandstorm on that third round, so I gave him the third. But either way, I think the right guy won.
Yeah, man, it was interesting because I do think it was 2 30-27s and 1 29-28 for, I don't know. Listen, I just thought that Corrales, he was kind of beating the brakes off of Lee, and in a weird way too, because it's not like the damage was super accumulative, but Aiden Lee was on his bike. He was like, I got to move. I cannot be a stationary target against this man. So it was a big win for Henry Corrales, man. The hand speed was beautiful. The power was beautiful. Cutting off the cage, takedown defense, initiating a little bit of wrestling himself. It was all beautiful. But like I said, it's just weird to me when the eye poke happens and then you start talking, like you said, you start being like, I got eye poked a bunch of times. Well, it's like, well, okay, but you're still losing, like, very definitively. Either way, when we're looking at the MMA Decisions, which is a website that I love to use, man, everybody has it in favor of Henry Corrales. There's no controversy here, folks. But big win by Henry Corrales, man. And interesting, man, he moves to 8-6 in his Bellator career, so he's kind of moving back up that, above 500. First win streak that he has put together since 2019, back when he went on a 5-fight win streak. Impressive stuff for Henry Corrales. All right, AJ. So what you were just talking about, a little bit of controversy, my man, and you were right. You were absolutely right. There is some controversy. So what I wanted to pull up really fast is this website, MMA Decisions, and I want to talk about what we have for media scores here. So the fight ended up being 29-28 split decision in favor of Benson Henderson. However, when we're looking at it, you have 3 media scores that have Henderson winning the fight. You have about 5 media scores scoring it for Islam Mamedov. And that's the thing, man. It's still close, 3-5. I mean, this isn't the same pool that you get in a UFC fight where you have a lot more media scores that are coming in. But what's interesting to me is that there is an argument for Benson Henderson to win. And hear me out, folks. The jiu-jitsu practitioner in me says Benson Henderson won that fight. He was being aggressive. He was attacking for chokes. He had a couple good guillotine chokes in there on Mamedov, which definitely changed up Mamedov's game plan. However, that third round, which it really came down to, when he was going for a knee bar on Islam Mamedov, he had a figure 4 on Mamedov's leg but he really didn't have the knee bar, so Mamedov was still maintaining the top control position on him. However, it still looked like Benson Henderson was attacking, doing these things. The jiu-jitsu guy in me says, yes, that's what the case was. He should be awarded the round. He should win the points. But the MMA fan in me says Islam Mamedov had top control. He was never really in threat of the submission. You can't give points for hypotheticals here. It was close, brother. I'm not going to say robbery by any stretch of the imagination. And it was because I actually scored these fights myself just to see where I stood on it. So for this fight, first round Henderson, second round Mamedov, and it was so close, brother. But I squeaked it out for Islam Mamedov, just ending the fight in the dominant position, getting the takedowns, all that good stuff. Almost, though, like I said, the jiu-jitsu guy in me was all like, you got to give it to Henderson for the jiu-jitsu, for the the aggressiveness. But where were you at? Did you score it in real time? Did you watch the fight back? Like, how did you go about it?
No, I scored it in real time, man, and I had it even going into the third.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I had Henderson winning the first, Mamedov coming back with the second. And then, honestly, man, I scored it for Mamedov. I had him winning, man. Mamedov, excuse me, I've been pronouncing that wrong. I had him winning, bro. I was honestly, I was telling you this when the mics were cold. Literally right before the decision drops, I wrote, wouldn't be surprised if Henderson win. But I had Mamedov winning, man. I just think he did too much. And honestly, I was thinking about this too, man. I think we're, at least right now, me and my mental state, I'm so conditioned to seeing the UFC give the decisions to the guy who has top position and is controlling the dominance factor. Not necessarily the damage doesn't really matter sometimes with the UFC decision. So I think that's where my mindset was, where I was thinking, oh yeah, Mamedov with all the control and the top position, like you said. Benson Henderson had the figure four, but never really in danger in any of these submissions and was always on his back. So I think I just got conditioned to think that's how these fights are going to be scored. So I like it. I like what Bellator did right there, man. I like the fact that they switched it up a little bit and gave action and threats more of a weight than just laying on top of somebody and controlling them and dominating them. Even though, I can see, like I said, I can see arguments for both sides. So I can see, I had it scored for Islam, but I can see how Henderson won. And I'm kind of glad he did, because it sets a different precedent that damage and threats and going for staying active is a little bit more impactful than just lying on top and humping somebody. So
no, absolutely, but that's a really great assessment when we're talking about it, because we do get conditioned to it, man. And word on the street is that the Arizona Fight Commission is a very, very good commission, very transparent. You know what I mean? Do a very good job of judging and stuff like that. But it is interesting because the UFC will have you thinking, no, well, if he does it this, he has to win it this way. But this is Bellator; it's a different promotion. Maybe they're looking for different things in the eyes of the judges, but the point overall is you have to be active, be aggressive. That's what win you fights. Nobody wants to win on points anyways in the first place, man. So if you are going to win on points, you better be aggressive. You better be definitive that you won. This was back and forth though, man. Like I said, I think Islam Mamedov, this dude was about to be on a 20-fight win streak. You know what I'm saying? Like, he hadn't lost in 12 years, and to lose in this fashion, little devastating. This is one of the rare times that you're going to see Khabib cornering somebody and his fighter actually loses. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to know what Khabib says about it. I would like to know his perspective of the fight. Unless somebody asks him, I guess we'll never know. Maybe I'll go check out. Maybe he did a post-fight interview or something like that. But this was a big win for Benson Henderson, brother. And you got to just give it up for, even if this was a split decision. Like I said earlier, he's 6-2 when the fight goes to a split decision. So the man has been on the very, very fortunate end of those decisions. But you got to give it to him. He's an OG of the game. You got to respect the OG, and I think that his veteranship is what won him the fight. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, 100%, man. This was very much a Mamedov Russian-style smash kind of fight. So the fact that Henderson was able to kind of pull it out, man, very, very impressive for him. Yeah. And personally, I had this question when I was writing it down. I just saw this, man. Was the fact that Mamedov wasn't able to dominate, do you think that really weighed in? Because I feel like everybody expected, once he had that top position, he was just going to dominate and end the fight. Yeah. I think that might have weighed in a little bit more into the judges, that this old dude kind of came back and wasn't, made the Russian smash not look as powerful as it normally does. What do you think?
Well, I think that the reason that Islam Mamedov couldn't dominate is because he was so worried about that guillotine threat. And that's what I wanted to point out right there, man. Like, that happened. That's a real thing, is when you're trying to shoot in against somebody who has a really good guillotine, you get really tentative. You're really like, okay, like, I want to take the shot, but I'm not trying to get choked out. And even if the first one, man, it took him a while to get out of it. So you could tell he was like, all right, this dude's tight, man. Like, I was in danger right there. I have to really be careful. And you can get in your head a little bit. And that's why I thought that Mamedov was a little less aggressive than he normally is when he fights, because of that situation. It wasn't just once. It was like 3 times this dude was about to get guillotined. You feel me? So it was that. But I will say the little bit of impressive nature from Mamedov, man. The trips of him, man. The body lock, the cage control, being able to just throw Benson Henderson down. Granted, Henderson did do some good Granby rolls and rolled with a lot of these attacks and use his flow, his smoothness, right? But it was a very impressive showing from Mamedov, man. And I thought that I thought he still dominated in a way, you know what I mean? But it didn't result in the outcome that he wanted. Big win by Benson Henderson, brother. And speaking of men who use their veteranship to win fights, man, Ryan Bader, brother, the definition of using a veteranship. And we were just talking earlier, brother, and I actually don't remember if the mics were cold or not when we were saying this, but I thought that Bader did enough to get the nod in this fight, this very close fight that I had 2-2 going into the 5th. I thought Bader he did just enough with the little pot shots, little elbows that went unanswered. Like, he even said it in the post show, he's like, I gave him like 20 unanswered elbows. He did what he needed to do to win the fight, and he knew it. But Moldavsky, like you said earlier, he did have a case to win this fight. So what I wanted to do is go over the MMA decisions. And this one is a little different, brother, because Bader, he only gets 4 nods in the media score. For Moldavsky, he gets about 7. So 7-4 in favor of Moldavsky for 48-47. And it could have gone either way, brother. But what it came down to for me was that last round where Moldavsky was tired. Yes, did he have the control? Did he get Bader on his butt at the end of the fight? Yes, absolutely. But Bader was giving him shots. And those, you can't say that, they meant nothing. So what do you think, brother? Robbery, close fight? What are we talking? What are we calling this?
Man, this was a hard one. I think close fight. I don't know. I don't necessarily know about robbery. Maybe, possibly a little bit more towards the robbery than the last fight we were talking about in the Henderson fight. But I had even, man. I had Bader winning the 1st and the 4th, Moldavsky dominating the 2nd and the 3rd. Yeah. And man, it's a hard one because was Moldavsky in more danger than he put Bader in? Yeah, probably. With those head strikes. Bader showed his class, man. He showed that he knew he had to save it for the 4th and the 5th. He looked a little tired in the 2nd. I thought he was gassed already in the 2nd. He came out a little plotty, got dominated in the 2nd and 3rd, saved his energy for the 4th and the 5th, which is a very smart move from him. And I don't think either fighters, besides that first exchange in the very first round where Bader absolutely dropped bombs on Moldavsky, I don't really think anyone else was seriously in potential danger. Maybe those elbows from the top in the 5th when they were coming down, like you said, he landed like 20 unanswered. But was he in serious danger? It's a little rough. I don't really know. Again, this goes back to what I was saying in the last fight. I'm glad that the Arizona Commission made it so it wasn't just dominant, or it wasn't just top pressure and control that mattered, especially when your head's by somebody's hips and your head's down and they're just beating on you with an elbow. It isn't as advantageous as something else that could have been going down. So I'm glad the Arizona Commission scored it the way they did, because it means that there's other room for interpretation. It's not just the control that has to happen anymore. I always think of the TJ Dillashaw versus Sandhagen fight, where I think Sandhagen still won that fight, but they gave it to him. They gave it to TJ just because of control, not necessarily a winning style of fighting, even though points do count, I guess. Nobody wants to fight for points, though. I mean, come on. Let's be for real right here. Control, though, from Bader. I mean, not control, but a veteranship for Bader. Very impressive either way. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Now, I was so impressed because I was watching it. When I was watching that last round, because I'm live scoring. I already know the outcome. I already know Bader wins. So I'm like, how does he get this done? I was like, is this a robbery? Because I was like, when 2 and 3 are happening, I was like, Moldavsky is taking over, bro. But then Bader gets the nod in the 4th. I agree. I had the same scorecard as you. And then I give the 5th to Bader just because of the little pot shots. But like a minute 30 left, and he's dropping those little elbows, dropping those little shots. And I was like, Bader, you sneaky bastard. I was all like, you're winning. This is how you won the fight. Literally, I was thinking about that. I was like, you won the fight just doing those little things, which some people might say, oh, that's not enough to win a fight. That's bullshit. Because those strikes, were they really like hurting Moldavsky? No, but it was just a little something to think about. You know what I mean? Let me drop these elbows down so you have to adjust your head. You can't get as deep on the shot. You know what I mean? You move your head back towards the chest as opposed to the side. it wasn't going to put him out, but it did something, and that's what counts, because Moldavsky did nothing. He held him, and he did not throw any strikes, and that was what was interesting, is that even when Moldavsky was on his back, I was like, you know what's the one thing that I wish you would do is the one thing that, it's tough because these are heavyweights, right, but the flyweights do, the Brandon Royvals do. He's on his back, he's throwing elbows, he's throwing everything up, he's hitting you constantly off of his back. We don't see heavyweights do that as much, but if Moldavsky could have done that a little bit, would have been impressive. I did just want to just show a little bit of love to both of these fighters, but Ryan Bader specifically, brother. He threw this right cross that he used to kind of slip the arm, kind of do a form of an arm drag and get straight to the back of Moldavsky. He wasn't able to take the back immediately, but eventually he was able to get there. And I was just like, bro, Ryan Bader, like, this is what I was saying. I was like, it's just, even at heavyweight, these are small heavyweights. I was like, that's so fast, so deceiving right there, man. That was a beautiful technique. Moldavsky had some beautiful techniques of his own, man. He used a lot of that judo, a lot of those sambo, a lot of trips, a lot of that Greco-Roman. In terms of this matchup, I wanted to ask you, in its totality, will we see these two fight again?
Oh yeah, 100%. I almost think we have to, especially if Moldavsky gets a couple wins under his belt, and really starts getting that kind of rise, and Bader keeps winning. I think this is a fight that needs to happen again, because I could just keep going back to the fact that neither guy, besides that first interaction, neither guy was ever seriously in danger. So I think it was such a close fight that we need to run this back, man. What do you think?
You know what? I think that that's a very fair assessment. I don't know what Moldavsky is going to have to do to get that rematch back, but I do think that this was a unconclusive. You know what I mean? It kind of felt like it was like, okay, do this 10 times and it might be 5-5. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally that close. Just because the one key X factor that won it for Bader, I think, is the striking. He just had better striking, brother. Like, he had to make Moldavsky worry about that, where Moldavsky, he really only had the big right hand. So, I mean, he wasn't really using the check hook as much as that he normally does. Either way, man, this is the first real title defense for Ryan Bader at heavyweight, because his first title defense, if that's what you want to call it, he retained the belt via no contest against Czech Congo. And listen, brother, we're going to see the rematch, so it's going to be fun. This was a great card overall, brother. I mean, what do you think? You think this was a good card?
Oh, yeah, man. Great card, and a very strong card for Bellator to put them, kind of solidify themselves as that #1 contender against the UFC, man. Very entertaining. Like you said, 5 finishes in the prelims. Folks, go watch the prelims. We've been telling you that for years now. Go watch the prelims. Very entertaining. A little chalky, but still fun to watch. Yeah. And then the main card actually provided, man. Very fun fight.
Absolutely, man. So this is one of those where I'm like, when I was watching it back, I was very entertained. Sometimes you will watch a Bellator card where you're like, a little bit of a snooze fest, man. You know what I mean? It's 7 straight decisions. You know what I mean? All chalk, all wrestling fest, all that, which is not a problem, because you'll see that in the UFC sometimes too, man. It just happens. But I think that you're right, man. To go to show that, hey, we can't compete against these other organizations. I mean, you're clearly the de facto #1 contender. You're nowhere near championship status. But either way, man, I thought this was a really fun card. 60% finish rate, man, which is a lot better than the UFC's last card, which was like a 12% finish rate. It was pretty rough. But listen, man, and still, back-to-back weeks. Give me your opinion on that really quickly before we move on, man. Francis Ngannou and Ryan Bader both say, and still. The heavyweight champions remain the baddest men on the planet. I mean, oftentimes you will see a lot of turnover, but it's something special when you can really strap down and lock down that belt. What do you think about that?
Man, I forget who it was that said you're not the champ until you defend it. It was one of the greats. Was it Randy Couture, or I forget exactly who? But either way, I definitely think you hold more water once you do actually defend it. I think either way, very impressive that you can actually get to the pinnacle of your sport. The fact that you're able to see these contenders, like somebody like Kamaru Usman, man, you're able to run the division. Damn, bro. Like, I think it's very, very impressive, the fact that even still in Bellator, Bader's still able to be double champ and maintain his heavyweight and keep it going. I know he had the L to Corey Anderson, but still impressive the fact that he's able to handle these young bucks that are coming up. Bader's been doing it for a very long time, and like I've said before, nobody gives him the respect, man. Even I haven't been really giving him the most respect, but I do give him some in the fact that he's able to see these things going on, see these young bucks coming up, handle his own, and keep that veteran status. Very impressed that he's able to actually get it going, and still, I mean, it's a hard feat most people can't even get close to, and he's getting it done again and again. Very impressive. All the time, man. Absolutely.
And I know you gave the nod to his loss against Corey Anderson, but let's not forget Vadim Nemkov taking that belt from him, man, because Vadim Nemkov made him look like a little boy right there. You know what I'm saying? Listen, Nemkov, different beast right there. But listen, great fights, folks. And if you had to give a fight of the night, just hypothetically over here, brother, who are you giving fight of the night to?
Ooh, If I had to give fight of the night, man, it's hard because I had Corrales and Lee until the eye poke, and then I don't know if you can really give fight of the night to them. Homasi, super fast fight, so not necessarily. And let me pull up
let me give you mine. Let me give you mine. Just
Go ahead,
while you're still thinking. So, folks, I thought without a doubt, even though it did end up in this controversy, I thought Benson Henderson versus Islam Mamedov was definitely the fight of the night in my eyes. It was so exciting, the back and forth pace, the back and forth action. Even though it was a lot of wrestling and a lot of jiu-jitsu and all that, man, those sprawls, those scrambles, Benson Henderson throwing that leg kick time and time again, just chewing up that calf of Mamedov. I thought it was a very impressive showing. I think you could give the fight of the night to Ryan Bader versus Moldavsky, but that's a little chalky, and also it was a little bit of a slower paced fight over the course of 5 rounds. There was a lot of finishes, so you can't give fight of the night to a lot of these fighters, but I think Henderson versus Mamedov definitely could lock down as an easy fight of the night. So, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking over the card right now. The only other decision was the Rosta versus Johnson. Not necessarily the most entertaining fight, so I wouldn't go there. I agree with you. The Henderson versus Mamedov fight just stayed action-packed the entire time. With how fast Henderson was moving and rolling, I think I got to go there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So that's fight of the night on that one, man. And then we just got one piece of business left, and that is the word on the street, brother. So we're going to go and just go through a couple of articles real fast, man, and then we'll get up out of here, man. So first thing, Zabit Magomedsharipov training. UFC future should be known soon. That is beautiful news. Ali Abdelaziz hopes to have an answer on Zabit's future by next week. Magomedsharipov hasn't competed since defeating Calvin Kattar back in 2019. Rising featherweight saw his momentum take a halt when he was sidelined due to health issues, brother. And the health issues was a diaphragm problem that the man had, man, where he wasn't able to breathe properly. And, that sucks because it's like you never want to have your career hindered by that, but it also makes you wonder. This dude's beat 18-1 in MMA, 6-0 in the UFC, starching people, and he couldn't even breathe all the way. How scary is this man if he comes back full diaphragm, full breath, full gas tank? Because that was the problem, is that rounds 1.5, Zabit's killing it. 2.5, 3, we got some issues. That cardio drops crazy. What do you think about this?
Man, if he gets his cardio back in order, that diaphragm problems, man. If you've ever felt like you can't breathe, it's one of the scariest things in the world. There's a lot of times where you just wake deviated septum. I got so I'll wake up like gasping for air. If you've ever felt that kind of panic in your body, man, I couldn't imagine fighting that way and knowing in rounds 2.5 you're just sitting there trying to gasp for air, trying to open up your diaphragm. It's scary, man. So the fact that this dude is able to do what he was at that level, and then now he's going to be even healthier, breathing better, more energy, more oxygen going to the muscles. Woo, this dude's going to be fast, going to be powerful. It's going to be very, very scary to see what Zabit does in the future, man.
Absolutely, brother. I can't wait, man. I got one of these Zabit UFC cards and all that, man. I was like, oh my God, I'm so hyped. He's going to be a legend, da-da-da. Then he stops fighting, and I was like, oh no. What potential lost? But I'd love to see him compete again, man. One of my favorites to watch. Jeremy Stevens, man, Lil Heathen, no longer on the UFC roster after 14 years, brother. One of the longest tenured fighters in the promotion's history, man. He became a free agent in his most recent fight, and he actually has a deal set up right now where it's looking like he's going to be at the PFL. So that's looks like the new home for Lil Heathen. However, this is a man who was born, raised, grew up in the UFC damn near, man. And in the span of 14 years, he battled the who's who of the lightweights, the featherweights, and wins over Henan Barao, Darren Elkins, Josh Emmett, RDA. And listen, man, it's crazy because this is like the purging of the OGs, which is something that I was actually talking to you about before, right? And I was kind of telling you like, hey, man, one of the big predictions that I had for this year is that the who's who, the people we knew and loved, grew up watching, they're going to get the boot, and the new generation is going to come in. What does it mean to you that the UFC, even though Stevens was on a pretty rough skid, right? What does it mean to you that they let him go, man? He's been in the company for 14 years.
Man, been in the company for 14 years. I hope he gets a PFL deal. I hope he really starts going, making some money, or at least saved a lot of that money that he's earned over that 14 years. Because it's sad to see, but it's, we say it all the time, man. Father Time is undefeated, especially in a very hungry company like the UFC, not necessarily the company isn't hungry. They're not trying to like take people's money and stuff, but the talent pool that the UFC has is very hungry, and these young dudes coming in are gunning for you. It's a very dog eat dog world, and unfortunately, little Heathen, he's out. But I hope he does get to go to the PFL and man, get that milli. That'd be amazing to see.
Absolutely, brother. And that's what's beautiful about these Eagle FCs, the PFLs, the Bellators, the One Championships. You need to be able to have another home outside of the UFC where you could still go fight and flourish in your career. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're not in the UFC doesn't mean you're not a great fighter. You still got the Cage Furies, the Titans, Fury FCs. I know that's more amateur stuff, but listen, I'm just putting that out there. A legend like Jeremy Stevens definitely still has a home in MMA. This dude's still a great fighter. All right, AJ, and then the last article that I have here, Francis Ngannou, heavyweight champion in the UFC, to have knee surgery, faces a 9-month recovery following his UFC 270 win. Listen, brother, he tore the MCL and he damaged his ACL. It's going to take about 9 months, probably at least, of recovery time, and he won't undergo surgery until after he visits Cameroon. So he's even putting off the surgery a little bit, man. The question that I have for you on this one, brother, is that, first off, I mean, we already had hints that this might be Ngannou's last fight with the UFC. This is not helping matters at all. And I could understand the UFC being petty and saying, we're going to strip you of your belt because you're not able to defend it. We're going to set up another interim championship fight. I just feel like this is all signs are leading towards there's going to be a new heavyweight champion by the end of 2021, and his name is not going to be Francis Ngannou. Not because Francis Ngannou is going to lose the belt via in octagon competition, in octagon results, but it's going to be kind of like a Horiguchi. Kyoji Horiguchi. You know what I mean? He got hurt and he had to just vacate his belt. I think this is going to be a situation like that. What do you think?
I think so, man. If not, they're going to set up a John Jones versus Stipe Miocic interim championship. Hopefully. That'd be cool. That'd be cool to see. I'd be down with it. And then they all fight each other. Unification again. Sucks for Francis Ngannou, though, man. That's a real rough one right there. Yeah. Especially, MCL isn't the worst, so it's good his ACL is still intact, but being damaged, which is a little more scary because they can't really do anything for it. Yeah. It's just it's damage, partial tear, so they can't really fix that. They're not going to cut it and then give you a new one. Yeah. They're just gonna say get stronger. So that's homeboy's already strong enough. The fact that he fought on that torn MCL, partially torn ACL, it's a rough one, man. Rough.
Yeah, I mean, what does this mean though? I don't want to be over dramatic here. Don't get me wrong, man. But one of the things that I just keep thinking about is what? It's not wasted talent. Don't get me wrong. But what a career the man could have if these contract disputes weren't happening. Where would he go down in the history, in the annals of the heavyweight division in terms of champions? He could be one of the best of all time. But these are the things that are kind of hindering that, you know what I mean? The contract disputes, the, fighting infrequently, now the injury. If he leaves the UFC, this is the end. You finish as, yes, you were the heavyweight champion, but you had one title defense. I mean, that's not the greatest of all time. That's not no John Jones 11 title defenses or anything like that, man. He is already older. He's about 35 years old, man. I mean, do you think that in another timeline, in another reality, Francis Ngannou could truly have been the greatest to ever do it?
Oh, yeah, man. He has full potential, and even though he's 35, he fights like he's a young 28-year-old, man. This dude has a lot behind him and a lot going for him. I'm curious now with seeing how everything kind of unfolded, and now that the injuries, been pronounced and everybody knows about it. I'm wondering if the contract disputes, the injury happened, and then the contract disputes came because Francis Ngannou thought, well, if I get injured, and I don't do this, what's going to be happening. So I think that might have been playing a little bit more into it and why Francis Ngannou wanted more money, because they do. I mean, they obviously you sign a contract, so it's rough to say they need to pay you more. But I mean, it's a little rough when that's all your income. So, and you get injured, now you're out. Oh man, it's hard because I do think Francis Ngannou has the skills and the repertoire and the talent to be able to go and be one of the greatest we've seen in a long time. Man, he's a very scary individual. But when life happens, you can't always, you can't catch that curveball that life throws. So it's a real rough one to see happen to Francis Ngannou, especially very, very talented fighter. Rough one.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think part of the issue too is that the man generally fights one time a year. You're making $600K. I mean, listen, Tyson Fury makes $30 million for one fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not the same. And I do think one of the things he pointed out is that the UFC also doesn't offer really insurance for the fighters, so it's like you're on the hook for all of that stuff, man. So there is a good point, and I do think that Francis Ngannou is being more or less of a martyr, and he is taking a stand, kind of being like a Muhammad Ali in a way where there's going to be change coming from his decisions to not just say, okay, I'll shut up and I'll take the money. No, that's not good enough. I need more. We need more as fighters, all that. The Logan Paul situation, as much as we don't even want to talk about the dude, he is bringing awareness to the fighter pay and to unionization for the fighters. Is it going to happen? I don't think so. I think it's too individualistic of a sport for it to happen, but I do think that thinking about it and talking about it is important. So I'll just leave that for that. That is the word on the street for this, folks. Listen, man, great episode 113, man. Look at that, just chugging along, man. Once upon a time, it was just episode 1, episode 2, here 113. Listen, man, it's been a pleasure. It's been a blast. Folks, scan the QR code if you want to drop some love over here, but if not, share the show with your friends. Share it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the whole entire 9. If you in the metaverse, go share it in the metaverse with your VR homies or whatever the case may be. I haven't checked it out yet, but word on the street, that's the popular thing these days. AJ, brother, you got any last words for the people?
Ooh, man, biggest thing Derick said it before. You don't understand how important or how much it helps us out if you go and just rate things 5 stars, share it to your homies, share it to your friends, even talk about a word on the street, man. We give you a word on the street section. Go share it with your friends on the street. Let them know where they can get the best MMA advice, best breakdowns. And if you're rocking with me on these picks, man, you winning some money. Yeah. I know it's a beginning of the year, but we got a long season ahead of us, a lot of money to be winning. Got a short-term memory over here, so we're going to keep that winning streak going. But like I said, share it with your friends. It makes a world of difference, and we genuinely appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. And folks, I will say, man, in the question from the wise words of David Goggins, who's going to carry the boats? Right now, AJ's carrying the boats, brother. I'm not carrying them. I'm lagging behind right now, but it's okay because, like I said, long year ahead, man, short memory. We're going to get out there and we're going to get back to it next week at UFC Vegas 47. Look at this poster, brother, right here. We previewed it a couple weeks ago, but it's finally actually going to be coming up next week. The Joker, Jack Hermanson versus Sean Strickland. You got a wrestler versus a striker/wrestler, man. This is going to be a fun matchup, man. I hope to hear some talking in this one, too. All that good stuff. You know where you can find us when you need the breakdown. Mondays and Fridays at 8 a.m. Short clips drop at noon. But if you head over to our website, Bloody Water Podcast, you can find everything there. You can find links to the short clips. You can find links to listening on all audio platforms. You can listen for free on our website. So listen, folks, I'm just going to put that out there. You know what to do. Last thing, BWP10 is the code you need to use to get 10% off of all merch. You can get a hoodie like the one that I'm wearing. You can get one of our classic logos. You can get the first logo that we dropped. You can get just about everything. So I'm just going to leave you guys with that. And listen, we got a lot of fun fights on the horizon. Let's stay tuned for that. Until next time, folks. Peace.